Hi friends! Welcome back and thank you for joining me for part 2 of my Hannibal Lecter series. If you haven't watched part 1 yet, you can click here and I'll also link it in the description. Part 1 covers building your mask. So if you haven't seen that video yet, go watch that one and I'll see you back here. The video today is going to cover priming and painting your mask and adding the teeth guard. Let's just jump right in. Here is a quick reminder of the tools and materials you will need to create this mask. When we left off at the end of part 1, we had the basic mask shape with ventilation holes. So I've let it sit for a while, so all of my contact cement seams should be nice and cured. I have an idea. Okay, so these little squares, that's where you're going to attach some Velcro for when you do the straps. Now there's no reason to plastidip and paint that part of the mask and then have to worry about your glue adhering to the plastidip and the paint. So I'm just going to cut out these squares, cover them up with some painter's tape, and then those will not get plastidipped or painted. So, wood. If you have an X-Acto knife or a box cutter, you can use that. So in hindsight, you could actually do these squares. You could do that before you do any of the gluing. That way you're, once again, working with it while it's nice and flat. I'm just gonna line this up. So now I got these little pieces of painter's tape on there, so when I prime it and then paint it, I'll be able to just peel these off, and then I'll have bare foam that I can glue the Velcro to. So now take your mask outside and prime it. I always prime my foam with Plastidip, but you can use Mod Podge and a paintbrush and just brush it on. Do a few thin coats until you have a nice smooth surface. Make sure you let it dry completely between coats. Alright, not enough people talk about this, but when you're done spraying, turn the can upside down and spray until like the air will still be coming out, but no more liquid is coming out, and that just cleans out the nozzle and everything so that it doesn't get all gummed up. Like that. I can still see some black through the white. So I'm going to keep on going until I don't see any black. Just be careful that you don't get drips and runs. Okay, and now we'll let that dry. The pooper. And go hang out with me today. Hey, bud. Yeah, I gave you a bed back there so you can lay down. Yeah. Hi. We can't see you. You're too far down. He requires butt scratches. Somebody requires butt scratches. Good boy. Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, good boy. No more doggy distractions. Here we go. It's gonna look pretty sweet. This has been curing for a few days. It really doesn't need that long to cure. I would say maybe 24 hours. I just didn't have time to work on it. Now I'm gonna mix up some paint and get some color on there. I usually use some very cheap apple barrel paints, but one of my best friends gave me this big set of acrylic paint, so I'm gonna mix up my color with these. I usually just grab some disposable something from like a to-go container. I'm gonna try to match that ugly tan. I'm gonna try out this raw sienna. Ooh, that is dark. Ooh, I think I'm gonna like yellow ochre. Oh yeah, I like yellow ochre. Okay, titanium white. Yeah, that's white. White. I think I'm gonna try maybe yellow ochre and white. I mean, that's gonna look pretty good on its own, but I feel like it does need like a little touch of brown in there. Well, it's gonna take a lot more brown than that. And I want to mix up enough that I'm going to be able to cover the mask and not have to worry about mixing up more. So let's get just a crap ton more yellow ochre on there. Raw sienna. And some titanium white. Let's just see what happens here. It's like a tan brown, like a pale tan brown. That's what I'm going for. Pale tan brown. I'm kind of digging this color. Let's go with this. I think I'm going to use a foam brush because I don't want stroke marks. I don't want to see the streaks of paint. I want it to look like this material is actually this color. So I'm going to use a foam brush and I'm going to stipple it on. Okay. So I'm just going to grab a foam brush and paint the whole shebang. Here's my mask so far. It came out a little more yellow than I wanted. Apparently these new paints that I have dry a little more vibrant and maybe even a little darker. So I'm just going to do a second coat, which I was planning on doing anyway, and I'm going to see if I can get a little closer to the color that I want. So I got another coat on there. It is more brown. It's not like overpowering yellow like it was before. And I have some paint left. I think I'm gonna get it a little more tan and even lighter. Okay, I feel like I've got a pretty good base color down. It's pretty brown, which is okay because I'm going to start layering color on top. And I think I want to go darker to lighter. So now I'm going to mix up some tan. And now when I stipple this lighter tan on top of the brown, I'm not going for a full coverage. I want some of that brown underneath to show through. So I'm just going to cover the whole mask and try to spread it out a bit. And I think you can start to see now how it's looking more like a worn leather, like a hard leather. Even though I think his mask is supposed to be some kind of hard plastic. I don't think it's supposed to be a leather, but I do like that layering of color that I'm getting now. So I think I'm just gonna keep going from brown to tan, and then I'll just keep layering that. So I think it's looking really good. I still feel like the color is a little too one-dimensional, so I'm going to go through with a slightly darker, slightly more tan color now, but I'm still going to let my layers that I've got so far show through, and I think it's just going to give it that much more depth to the mask. This time I'm going to be even more sparing with how much I put on and where I put it. I'm trying to get a little more of an uneven, splotchy look. I think I'm pretty happy with my base color now. So now I'm going to go through with a much lighter tan and add some of those lighter distressed looks. I mainly see them around the little holes in the mask, mouth hole, nose hole, things like that. And then any place where the material bends, so along the edges of the nose and then down on the chin and then right under the eyes along the edge of the mask there. So I'm just going to go through and be very sparing with this lighter distressed color. Now for this part, if you don't have a paintbrush, or my preference, a foam brush, you could use a dry sponge or even a crinkled up dry paper towel. You ready? Yeah. Oh, I'm excited. All right. Now, grab yourself 2 toothpicks and either break or cut them in half. Okay. Okay. Very nicely in half. I would say if you are going to cut them with scissors, just, be careful that you don't get your fingers in between the blades. Or you can break them in half. And just to show that it can be done, just grab it like this. Get your 2 thumbnails right at the point where you want it to break. And then, boop, back and forth. There you go. Pretty close to half. You only need 3 halves. But I'm going to go ahead and paint all 4 so that I can choose which one I like the paint job on the best. And I'm just going to stick them in a scrap piece of foam to hold them up. Like that. And now we're going to paint them silver. I'm going to start with a base coat of lighter silver, and I just want to cover the entire toothpick. Alright, so I've got a base coat of the lighter silver. I'm going to let that dry, and I'm going to keep doing base coats of lighter silver until I can't see the wood underneath. So I ended up doing 3 coats of the bright silver just to get a full coverage because I don't want to see any of the wood color underneath. So now I'm going to go over with a darker silver, and I'm not going to do full coverage with the darker silver. I want some of the lighter silver to show through. I want it to give it a little bit of depth by having 2 different shades of silver. I kind of want it to look streaky, I think. Yeah, we're going for streaky. If you only have 1 shade of silver paint and you also have some black paint, you could do your base coat as a lighter, brighter, shinier silver, and then add some black to your silver paint to make it darker. So I think I'm pretty happy with that. So now I'm going to use my wire cutters, and I'm going to cut an angle on the flat end of the toothpicks, and that's just going to help me push them into the foam. So now we have a point on both ends. Grab your trusty contact cement again, and just put a little dab on both ends of 3 of your toothpick halves. Now let those sit for a few minutes to give them time to get tacky. Copper is literally in a different position every time I look up at the camera. He's a good boy. Go back to sleep. Mom's recording. Sleep. It's not working. Now put those toothpick halves into the mouth and just poke them into the foam. One of them is centered. If it doesn't feel like it's going, just kind of wiggle it. Wiggle it. Go slow, because you don't want to tear it. Get it down in there. We're getting it. That's pretty good. Now, the ones on the sides are not straight up and down. They're sort of at an angle, like that. So if you get that little dip right there, push it in further than it needs to go, and then carefully pull it out. And that'll straighten your foam out a bit. So now we have the toothpicks stuck into the bottom, and we just need to stick the tops of the toothpicks into the top of the mouth. Remember, EVA foam is bendy, so you've got a little bit of play here. Just open the mouth up, pull the teeth down, get them in place where you want them. Like this, like that. So now I'm just going to shove the teeth right up into the foam. Like that. So
cool. Look at it. The toothpicks really sell it. Copper does not care.
And that's where we're going to end part 2. Once again, if you want to continue on your own, feel free. Otherwise, I'll be back here in 1 week for part 3, where I show you how to add the straps. Have a beautifully spooky day. See you soon. This wasn't supposed to be hard. This was supposed to be the easy part. Why is it not going easily? Why is it sucking so hard?